It says to share the screen with the audience. Can you guys see the screen? If you can see the screen, let me know. I'm looking at the. If you can see the screen, let me know you can see the screen. Okay, I'm hearing it's saying you're good. We see you. No screen, just you. Let me see. Okay, can you hear me? Can you see me and hear me at the same time? Give me a thumbs up if you can see me and hear me clearly. Okay, I got an all good. See and hear. Fantastic. Guys, this is my first live on this channel. This is bananas. We're getting ready to read Animal Farm. Before we did, just allowing people to roll in, I wanted to share some crazy facts about George Orwell. Guys, look, my wife found it. It's a first print. Legit. It's actually a smaller book than I think I remember. A lot of people were corresponding with me in the comments and were saying, man, it's been forever since I read Animal Farm. I haven't read it since high school. People were saying, I haven't read it since elementary school. If you read Animal Farm in elementary school, salute to your teacher. I think I read it in high school and I wasn't even forced to read it then. But listen, I wanted to go over a couple of facts. Joe, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. This is crazy. Like going live on this thing the first time. So number one, check this out. Just as we allow people to roll in, guys. George Orwell voluntarily lived as a poor man. Orwell dressed as a tramp and lived among the poor in London and Paris to understand their lives firsthand. This inspired his book Down and Out in Paris and London. Guys, this deep love for his city, deep love for his country, and unwillingness to abandon the streets, right, just because he was successful. And this was all throughout his life. This is kind of already giving me an insight into why Rin loves Orwell so much, right? And some of the people that we react to on this channel, guys, it's so insightful when you really look at who the person was. Number two, this is the second fact about George Orwell. He was shot through the neck in the Spanish Civil War. While fighting against fascists in Spain, George Orwell took a sniper bullet through the throat. He survived, but it permanently altered his voice and outlook on his political ideologies. So, guys, as we go through this, just recognize that this is the kind of person that we're dealing with, right? It's good to know kind of what shapes the worldview of the person that you're looking at. Guys, thanks so much for the super chats. I really, really appreciate Stacy Jane Platt. Been there since day one, back since since the Black Pegasus channel. Love, I appreciate it. Number three, um, George Orwell actually coined the term Cold War. Guys, I on this one, was so shocking to me. Back this up if you got. I mean, it's this. I mean, this is off of these are fun facts produced. I found these on Google. In 1945, in an article in the Tribune, George Orwell was one of the first people to use the phrase Cold War to describe the post World War II geopolitical tension between the US and the USSR. That's crazy. So we learn about the Cold War in history. So we don't know that's a George Orwell term. Uh, Number five, George Orwell considered himself a bad writer. And he's one of the most iconic authors like in history. It says, despite his success, George Orwell struggled with confidence, especially earlier in his career. He revised obsessively and once said, writing a book is a horrible, exhausting struggle. And guys, this just kind of shows me how deeply he cares, right? When you really care about the subject, I think that's kind of when you're your own biggest critic, right? And once again, the reason that we got into Animal Farm was because Ren was inspired, but I know that he's one of his own worst critics too. When you look at something like Hi Ren, that's one of the reasons that Ren like really deeply identifies with this author. They were very, very similar, it seems like. Um, George Orwell's real name was Eric Arthur Blair. He adopted the pen name George Orwell because he wanted a solid traditional English name. Orwell comes from the River Orwell in Suffolk. Okay, last fact, because I think a lot of people have are here with us right now. Legit, super chat is hyped. I mean, the super chat is hyped. The chat is hyped. I'm seeing a whole bunch of thumbs up. Haven't run Animal Farm since 1985. Let's go. All right, last one before we get into this, guys. George Orwell once killed an elephant and deeply regretted it. So while serving as a colonial officer in Burma, Orwell shot an elephant to maintain order. He reflected on this with guilt in his powerful essay, Shooting an Elephant. Guys, this guy really lived a crazy life. He also inspired terms like Big Brother. In his book 1984, Big Brother is Watching You, that later became shorthand for government surveillance. Guys, we're about to really dive into this. Once again, the channel Mr. Biscuit Speaks is dedicated to insights, the accumulation of insights and epiphanies. So anything that I miss, make sure you let me know in the comments, in the chat. Drop a super chat. That will be kind of the first ones that I notice. I, of course, can't read everything, but super chats are something that I can just kind of go up here and I guess click and isolate those. I was kind of practicing that at first. But guys, let's get into it. Animal Farm by George Orwell. It's so cool that we all kind of agreed to do this. Let's look at it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read just a couple of uh I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs, then I'm going to go back and we're going to kind of dissect some of the insights that are in there. So, you guys ready to start? Hit me with a thumbs up if we're ready. UK is in the building. Hit me with some thumbs up. I'm seeing some hearts. Got the thumbs right there. There we go. Oh, yeah, we're ready. Absolutely ready. Let's go. Okay, so chapter 1. Mr. Jones of the Manor Farm had locked the hen houses for the night, but was too drunk to remember to shut the pop holes. With a ring of light from his lantern dancing from side to side, he lurched across the yard, kicked off his boots at the back door, drew himself a last glass of beer from the barrel in the scullery, and made his way up to bed, where Mrs. Jones was already snoring. So, guys, that first paragraph already kind of sets us up. The owner of the farm, Mr. Jones, is drunk and he leaves the animals vulnerable to predators. When you leave the pot hole open, it makes it so anything in there, like foxes can get in there, whatever. And so it's already kind of foreshadowing that there is a level of incompetency at the top. That's what he wants to start us out with. Guys, monarchy always dissolves into tyranny, doesn't it? It's just the rise and fall of empires, right? Whenever you have a monarchy, and sometimes it's a good monarch, but power always either goes to the head of the monarch, or in more often it goes to the head of the monarch's children. The person that he leaves power to, they just don't have the same sense of history or responsibility as the original monarch. And so Orwell is trying to set us up with this scene that already at the beginning of the story, Mr. Jones is leaving these animals vulnerable through incompetency. He's drunk. So, second paragraph, and this is important here. As soon as the light in the bedroom went out, there was a stirring and a fluttering all through the farm buildings. Word had gone out during the day that old Major, the prize middle white boar, had a strange dream on the previous night and wished to communicate it to the other animals. It had been agreed that they should all meet in the big barn as soon as Mr. Jones was safely out of the way. Old Major, so he was always called, though the name under which he had been exhibited was Willingdon Beauty, was so highly regarded on the farm that everyone was quite ready to lose an hour's sleep in order to hear what he had to say. So, the first thing that I wanted to draw your attention to in that paragraph, as soon as the light in the bedroom went out, there was a stirring and a fluttering all through the farm buildings. Guys, isn't it true that when the lights go out or when it's dark is when the slaves conspire to free themselves? It's when the coast is clear. It happens over and over again. If you guys seen Shawshank Redemption, when lights are out, that's when the conspiracies happen. In the life of Toussaint Louverture, one of my favorite slave rebellions to read about. This is the Haitian slave rebellion. At night is when the conspiracy happened to say we're going to free ourselves from our oppressor. It's when the lights go out. Even in the transatlantic slave trade, when when the lights went out in the big house, the slaves were out in their cabin if they had a cabin, if they were lucky enough to have that. That's when they would conspire to run. You would wake up in the morning and your slaves had abandoned you, right? And so the fact that the lights go out in the bedroom and now there's a stirring and fluttering all through the farm buildings, right? He's getting us, he's trying to get us to catch on to a perennial pattern. This has happened in the past. And so the prize middle white boar, his name is Old Major. And guys, this is not subtle. Major is a military rank. So it already gives you some sense of what's going on in the mind of this boar. Um, or so he was called, though his name under which he had been exhibited was Willington Beauty, was so highly regarded on the farm that everyone was quite ready to lose an hour's sleep in order to hear what he had to say. So we're introduced to this pig, Old Major. And one of the reasons, and it's been a long time since I read Animal Farm, but one of the reasons that I don't trust this pig, Old Major, is uh, because that's not his real name. The name that was given to him was Willington Beauty. He's privileged highly by the incompetent Mr. Jones, the owner of the farm, right? So he's been privileged. He's been, and so I don't know, I don't know whether that sketches you out or whether you're kind of inclined to trust this guy. Uh, so everyone wants to hear what this boar has to say. He's privileged. He's highly regarded and considered wise by the rest of the animals. At the end, oh sorry, at one end of the big barn, on a sort of raised platform, Major was already ensconced on his bed of straw under a lantern which hung from a beam. He was 12 years old and had lately grown rather stout, but he was still a majestic looking pig, with a wise and benevolent appearance, in spite of the fact that his tushes had never been cut. Before long, the other animals began to arrive and make themselves comfortable after their different fashions. First came the three dogs, Bluebell, Jessie, and Pincher, and then the pigs, who settled down in the straw immediately in front of the platform. So, the first thing to notice about where Old Major is seated, his post is elevated, right? He's up like on a stage. And the elevation of the leader comes from the early Paleolithic transition where we had sages, right? You've ever heard of, sages or wise men in Africa? They became like witch doctors or medicine men. And what paleoanthropologists are finding is that these sages back in the day, they were kept on elevated positions. They would speak from platforms because they were overseers. Words like supervisor came from these guys, right? There were people who had vision. And so the idea that he's highly lifted up or elevated is a symbol of his authority, right? Already. And guys, thank you so much for the super chats. I definitely see those and I'm going to get to those as well. We're going to isolate them and go through any questions that you have or anything that you want to kind of pull out of this, right? Anything that you're seeing that I'm missing, definitely talk to me and I'm going to get to those for sure. So another thing, his tushes had never been cut, and I had to do some research on that. I was like, "What was that?" And it's essentially his tusks, right? He has long tusks that have never been cut, which might be George Orwell trying to let us know that he's still in touch with a sense of freedom, or that he's potentially still wild. Um, maybe that his spirit is yet unbroken. Right? There's a lot of things that this could potentially mean, but This is a part that I wanted you to check out. First came the three dogs, Bluebell, Jessie, and Pincher, and then the pigs, who settled down in the straw immediately in front of the platform, right? So the pigs get the front row seats. Do you guys see how inequality just creeps in really slowly? Right? I mean, at first you might think, well, of course, the pigs are going to sit with the pigs. Of course they get the seats up there because, old Major's up there. He's a pig. It all makes sense. But what George Orwell might be trying to tell us is inequality is not something that you're going to immediately see. They're going to sneak it in and make it look normal, right? But that's already a form of inequality that they get the choice seats in the place just because they happen to be the same species as Old Major. But anyway, we keep going. The hens perched themselves on the window sills. The pigeons fluttered up to the rafters. The sheep and cows lay down behind the pigs and began to chew the cud. The two cart horses, Boxer and Clover, came in together, walking very slowly and setting down their vast hairy hooves with great care, lest there should be some small animal concealed in the straw. And that one, guys, I mean, reading this is pressure. And so that last sentence gave me a little bit of, at least there are some animals that care, that care for other ones. It says about uh, Boxer and Clover, these two cart horses, they came in together, walking very slowly, setting down their vast hairy hooves with great care, lest there should be some small animal concealed in the straw. So they're concerned for the smaller animals. Clover was a stout, motherly mare, approaching middle life, who had never quite got her figure back after her fourth foal. Boxer was an enormous beast, nearly 18 hands high, and as strong as any two ordinary horses put together. A white stripe down his nose gave him a somewhat stupid appearance, and, in fact, he was not of first rate intelligence. But he was universally respected for his steadiness of character and tremendous powers of work. What do you think about that? It's saying that Boxer, he's really, really big and really, really strong and really, really unintelligent. And he's garnered respect. Now, there's two ways you could see what they're saying about Boxer here. On the one hand, you could say, okay, well, this is nice. They're saying he's not intelligent, but they still respect him because at least he works hard. That's a nice way of thinking about it. But what if what George Orwell is trying to tell us about Boxer is that it's very convenient for those on the top of the hierarchy that they have someone so dumb that's willing to do so much? There's a couple ways you can think about that, right? It could either be a really good thing or something that's really going to start to affect the people lower on the caste system negatively in the future. After the horses came Muriel, the white goat, and Benjamin, the donkey. Benjamin was the oldest animal on the farm and the worst tempered. He seldom talked, and when he did, it was usually to make some cynical remark. For instance, he would say that God had given him a tail to keep the flies off, but that he would sooner have had no tail and no flies. Alone among the animals on the farm, he never laughed. If asked why, he would say that he saw nothing to laugh at. You know what's interesting? This goat Benjamin, it's saying he's the oldest animal on the farm and he's the most short tempered. And doesn't that make sense? I mean, if Benjamin is the oldest animal on the farm, he's the one that's most closely and tightly familiar with the decline of, what's the owner of the farm's name, Mr. Jones, right? Benjamin has taken some abuse from Mr. Jones. If he's the oldest animal on the farm, he has seen shit get really, really bad, right? And so he has the shortest temper. He has the least hope. He smiles the least. He rarely ever laughs, right? So we'll take special note of Benjamin as we progress. I hope that he shows up more. Anyway, nevertheless, without openly admitting it, he was devoted to Boxer. The two of them usually spent their Sundays together in the small paddock beyond the orchard, gazing side by side, grazing side by side, and never speaking. The two horses had just laid down when a brood of ducklings, which had lost their mother, filed into the barn, cheeping feebly and wandering from side to side to find some place where they would not be trodden on. Clover made a sort of wall round them with her great foreleg, and the ducklings nestled down inside it and promptly fell asleep. And so we're seeing a little bit of solidarity here. Clover made a sort of wall around them with her great foreleg, and the ducklings nestled down inside it and promptly fell asleep. At the last moment, Molly, the foolish, pretty white mare who drew Mr. Jones's trap, came mincing daintily in, chewing at a lump of sugar. She took a place near the front and began flirting her white mane, hoping to draw attention to the red ribbons it was plaited with. This is the kind of house slave that I hate. And listen, I love that Orwell recognizes all of the different uh, kinds of oppressed people. There's the oppressed people who's kind of like Old Major, who's very militant and calls all of his compatriots comrades, right? Getting them ready for some big rebellion. And then there's the oppressed who act a little bit like Molly, who's just, really privileged and loves living under the oppression because they're on top of some hierarchy, within the oppressed group, right? You guys remember in Django, the character played by Samuel L. Jackson, who was just that house slave who was happy to have as much power as he could get from what was it, Mr. Candy? Django is such a bomb movie. I love that movie. But it's showing us all the different kinds of oppressed people you have. You have the ones that are really physically strong and yet really, mentally not all there. You have the ones that deeply are inclined to rebel. Um, you have the ones that care about the ones who are weaker than them, and then you have the mollies who just kind of want to be noticed. It's really interesting. But Molly, the foolish, pretty white mare who drew Mr. Jones's trap, came daintily in. Why is that so hard to say? Chewing at a lump of sugar. She took a place near the front and began flirting her white mane, hoping to draw attention to the red ribbons it was plaited with. Last of all came the cat, who looked round, as usual, for the warmest place, and finally squeezed herself in between Boxer and Clover, where she purred contentedly throughout Major's speech without listening to a word of what he was saying. Guys, when this cat completely ignores the entire speech, and when he tells us that the cat ignores the entire speech before even giving us what that speech was, maybe he's trying to tell us that this cat understands something, or maybe that the cat has no respect for Major. Maybe both. All the animals were now present except Moses, the tame raven, who slept on a perch behind the back door. When Major saw that they had all made themselves comfortable and were waiting attentively, he cleared his throat and began. Comrades, you have heard already about the strange dream that I had last night. But I will come to the dream later. I have something else to say first. I do not think, comrades, that I shall be with you for many months longer. And before I die, I feel it my duty to pass on to you such wisdom as I have acquired. I have had a long life. I have had much time for thought as I lay alone in my stall. And I think I may say that I understand the nature of life on this earth as well as any animal now living. It's kind of a little, that's a little bit of an arrogant take. I mean, he's sure of himself. He says, "It is about this that I wish to speak to you. Now, comrades, what is the nature of this life of ours? Let us face it. Our lives are miserable, laborious, and short. We are born, We are given just so much food as will keep the breath in our bodies, and those of us who are capable of it are forced to work the last atom of our strength. Hmm. This doesn't apply to Old Major, right? I mean, it described Old Major as being stout, meaning he's very well fed. He's taken to the fair and wins prizes. He's given some special name by the farmer who owns the farm. Um, I don't know. It kind of seems a little bit like sophistry. And I'll get a little bit into what that is first. Guys, is there anything, let me pause here for just a second. Is there anything that I should address so far? I want to take a look at where we are. Um, Guys, I totally appreciate the compliment. When I first moved to Spokane, I read audiobooks for a living. So I've got like hundreds of audiobooks on Audible that I've read through. uh, Maureen O'Hara, Orwell points out that there are aspects of us that are not equal. The struggle, Govushin, treating everyone as an equal. I'm not sure what that word is, Govushin, if anybody can help me with that. But Orwell points out that there are aspects of us that are not equal. The struggle may be treating everyone as equal. Let me see here. Marine legend. Love this. Sorry I'm late. How far into it? So, guys, we're getting back into it. Guys, this is so incredible that we have this community reading Animal Farm. It's such an important book right now for the era that we're in, for the time period we're in. So, thank you for being here and for joining me in this. Um, so, let's go back to what Old Major is saying. He says, "Now, comrades, what is the nature of this life of ours? Let us face it. Our lives are miserable, laborious, and short. We are born, we're given just so much food as will keep the breath in our bodies, and those of us who are capable of it are forced to work to the last atom of our strength. And the very instant that our usefulness has come to an end, we are slaughtered with hideous cruelty. No animal in England knows the meaning of happiness or leisure after he is a year old. No animal in England is free. The life of an animal is misery and slavery. That is the plain truth." Guys, isn't it the nature of politicians to talk about our plight first? It's very rare that politicians lead with how good we're doing. Like, what if I was running for president and I said, "America, aren't we doing great? Aren't we privileged? I mean, can't we just go down the street and like go through a drive-through and like, go through McDonald's? Can't you just pick up a pair of sneakers? Can't you just take the day off if you requested a couple days early? Like, aren't things pretty good comparatively, at least, with the rest of the world who, isn't, as privileged as we are. People just don't lead with the blessings when they have something to promote, right? Um, Pauline said, "Money towards the cost of the next book for our book club reading." That means a lot. We're going to keep this going. This is going to be an aspect of this channel, guys. So I definitely need recommendations for further books because we will go through it. I'm a book nerd. But he says that's the plain truth. But is this simply part of the order of nature? Is it because this land of ours is so poor that it cannot afford a decent life to those who dwell upon it? No, comrades, 1,000 times no. The soil of England is fertile, its climate is good, it is capable of affording food in abundance to an enormously great number of animals than now inhabit it. This single farm of ours would support a dozen horses, 20 cows, hundreds of sheep, and all of them living in a comfort and a dignity that are now almost beyond our imagining. Why then do we continue in this miserable condition? Guys, listen. As someone who watches his fair share of graphic nature videos, I mean, I watch crocodiles versus monkeys. I love to watch hyenas attack gazelles. I just love to watch wildlife, especially the violent aspects. It's just, listen, it's one of my vices, if you want to call it that, right? Uh, and tell me if you disagree. but I think that nature is fairly violent too. It's not a utopia out there, right? I mean, to be honest, I mean, if I was a cow, let's say, I would maybe rather get butchered by a human being than one of those wild cats out there who are going to get you by the throat, or you know it's it's not all bells and whistles. It's not, the grass is not necessarily greener on the other side, guys. I mean, if you disagree, you disagree. um but look, I mean, I'm not going to say that old Major doesn't have a point. He certainly does. Let's continue. He says, because nearly the whole of the produce of our labor is stolen from us by human beings. There, comrades, is the answer to all our problems. Now, this is another line that makes me not necessarily trust Major so much. When someone says this is the source of all our problems, you sound a little bit more like the authoritarians. When you want to boil things down to something simple, guys, the problem is very, very rarely simple. You know, uh, I mean, Hitler kind of did this when he says, the problem is the Jews. If we just wipe this group out, then our plight will be uplifted. Um, there, comrades, is the answer to all our problems. It is summed up in a single word: man. Man is the only real enemy we have. Remove man from the scene, and the root cause of hunger and overwork is abolished forever. Guys, look, I think, it comes to my attention that some of these animals are a bit gullible. And George Orwell wants us to understand that about, certain horses like Boxer is a little bit gullible. But before you wish that your society was less gullible, understand that you need a gullible group, right? Without a certain amount of gullible people, you will. Without a certain amount of gullible people in society, the society descends into anarchy because everyone's a skeptic, right? And then without a certain amount of skeptics in society, well, then everyone's gullible, and so you're headed toward tyranny. There's going to be some tyrant that just talks you into letting him have all the power. So you don't want your society to be full of gullible people, but you don't want it to be full of skeptics either. The skeptics protect the gullible people from tyranny, and the gullible people protect the skeptics from anarchy. And so you want this sweet spot where there's a mixture of types of people, right? Does that make sense? And it looks like we have this mixture here. He says, remove man from the scene, and the root cause of hunger and overwork is abolished forever. Man, he continues, is the only creature that consumes without producing. He does not give milk. He does not lay eggs. He is too weak to pull the plow. He cannot run fast enough to catch rabbits. Yet he is Lord of all the animals. He sets them to work. He gives back to them the bare minimum that will prevent them from starving, and the rest he keeps for himself. Our labor tills the soil, our dung fertilizes it, and yet there is not one of us that owns more than his bare skin. Guys, what's the meaning of that line? Our labor tills the soil, our dung fertilizes it, and yet there is not one of us that owns more than his bare skin, right? He's talking about bare skin, like the fact that we don't have fur. And this is something really phenomenal, especially for George Orwell's time period. This pig is starting to make a distinction. He's trying to de animalize us. Guys, you know how when you want to enslave a people, it's very important that you dehumanize them. And I'm not trying to teach people how to make slaves or how to, but the thing is, during the transatlantic slave trade, there were rumors going around that blacks were less human. The Three-Fifths Compromise may have had something to do with that. But there was, pseudoscience saying that, Africans don't feel pain to the same degree, that we can just be treated like animals and sold like animals. And so you have to dehumanize in order to pacify the conscience, right? And so it seems that old Major, this pig, in order to pacify the conscience of these moral animals and uh, to overthrowing the human race, he has to de-animalize us and say, look, these humans are in a category apart from us. And because they are in a category apart, it's justifiable what we're planning to do to them with this revolution. But think about this. He says, our labor tills the soil, our dung fertilizes it. Okay, how are we looking? How are we doing now, guys? Can you hear me? Am I audible? Am I audible? Okay, he says, I hear you. Mama Montoya said, I blame Major. Major is 100% to blame. It's a major malfunction. Okay, guys, I need more major puns. That was a major pain. I'm back. Okay, now where did we get before, because geez, like it's very difficult corresponding with the chat. Mr. Biscuit escaped the farm. This book is spooky. See, I'm telling you, the spirit of this book can cast a spell, right? Let's where were we? Dung fertilizing the earth. Are we that far back? No animal in England is free. The dung. Okay. That's where we were. Guys, thank you for remembering where we were. Let me see here. Okay, perfect. Guys, give me a thumbs up if we're good. Because we're almost out of time. We're about 10 minutes. Okay, we're all good. We got all thumbs. Okay, now, comrades, what is the nature of this life of ours? Let us face it. Our lives are miserable, laborious, and short. We're born, given so much food as will keep the breath in our bodies, and those of us who are capable of it are forced to work to the last atom of our strength. And the very instant that our usefulness has come to an end, we are slaughtered with hideous cruelty. No animal in England knows the meaning of happiness or leisure after he's a year old. No animal in England is free. The life of an animal is misery and slavery. That is the plain truth. But is this simply part of the order of nature? Is it because the land of ours is so poor that it cannot afford a decent life to those who dwell upon it? No, comrades, 1,000 times no. The soil of England is fertile, its climate is good, it's capable of affording food in abundance to an enormous great number of animals, more than now inhabit it. This single farm of ours would support a dozen horses, 20 cows, hundreds of sheep, and all of them living in a comfort and dignity that are now almost beyond our imagining. Why then do we continue in this miserable condition? Because nearly the whole of the produce of our labor is stolen from us by human beings. Give me a thumbs up if you can still hear me. Just need that again, real quick, guys. Just want to make sure. We still good? Not frozen. Good. There, comrades, is the answer to all of our problems. It is summed up in a single word: man. Man is the only real enemy we have. Remove man from the scene, and the root cause of hunger and overwork is abolished forever. So, what I said at this part, guys, when it froze up, is that this is a clear sign of both a tyrant and a cult leader. Someone who says there's a very simple solution to a complex problem. And if we can just apply this simple solution, I promise you a utopia. If you just give me the present, I'll give you the future. Right? It's never a good exchange, right? Not to poison the well on Major here. Man is the only creature that consumes without producing. He does not give milk, nor does he lay eggs. He's too weak to pull the plow. He cannot run fast enough to catch rabbits, yet he is Lord of all the animals. He sets them to work. He gives back to them the bare minimum that will prevent them from starving, and the rest he keeps for himself. Our labor tills the soil, our dung fertilizes it, and yet there is not one of us that owns more than his bare skin. Now he's talking about the bare skin of mankind, right? And what's so funny is like it's so telling. He calls us, this is old Major talking about human beings. We're the with the bare skin, right? We don't have fur. So this is his way of de-animalizing us. You remember how Adolf Hitler said, "Oh, the ones that don't have blonde hair are not the Aryans," even though Hitler himself didn't have blonde hair? Well, uh, old Major has bare skin too. He's a pig. He doesn't have fur like the rest of the animals, right? And yet he says, "Oh, you shouldn't trust the bare-skinned ones." So much irony in that, right? You cows that I see before me, how many thousands of gallons of milk have you given during this last year? And what has happened to that milk which should have been breeding up your sturdy calves? Every drop of it has gone down the throats of our enemies. And you, hens, how many eggs have you laid in this last year? And how many of those eggs have ever hatched into chickens? The rest have all gone to market to bring in money for Jones and his men. And you, Clover, where are those 4 fowls you bore, who should have been the support and pleasure of your old age? Each was sold at a year old. You will never see one of them again. In return for your 4 confinements and all your labor in the fields, what have you ever had except your bare rations and a stall? And even the miserable lives we lead are not allowed to reach their natural span. For myself, I do not grumble, for I am one of the lucky ones. At least old Major recognizes it. Look, um, could a politician ever win by leading with how privileged we all are? Like, what if I were to run for office and I was like, listen, America, we're complaining a little bit too much. You know that we are rich compared to like the majority of the world. What are we all complaining about? I'm going to get in office and I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to play golf. I'm going to go to a few restaurants. Listen, we're all doing fairly well. Stop worrying so much. Stop bitching and complaining. This is not the way to this is not the way to win an election, guys. You have to go in talking about how miserable everyone is and kind of reminding them of their plight, let's say. But let's continue for a little bit. Old Major says, "I'm 12 years old and have over 400 children. Such is the natural life of a pig. But no animal escapes the cruel knife in the end. You young porkers who are sitting in front of me, every one of you will scream your lives out at the block within a year." Guys, he's trying to get these animals to metacognize, which is very unanimal like. It's very human like. Metacognition is thinking about your thoughts. He's trying to get them to think about the future, right? Uh, old Major is saying, just give me the present. Give the present to me, and I'll show you what the future is like. Very cult like behavior, a very cult like request, right? Give me the now, and I'll exchange information about the later. It's very rarely a good investment, guys. To that horror, we must all come: cows, pigs, hens, sheep, everyone. Even the horses and the dogs have no better fate. You, boxer, the very day that those great muscles of yours lose their power, Jones will sell you to the knacker, who will cut your throat and boil you down for the foxhounds. As for the dogs, when they grow old and toothless, Jones ties a brick round their necks and drowns them in the nearest pond. Is it not crystal clear, then, comrades, that all the evils of this life of ours spring from the tyranny of human beings? Only get rid of man, and the produce of our labor will be our own. Almost overnight, we could become rich and free. Guys, this is very, very cult like. He's saying, look, overnight, it'll happen overnight. It'll happen so quick. All you have to do is do what I say, and just commit your entire lives to this very simple solution. Give up the present and give your present to me, and I will give you the future. Fix your eyes on that, comrades, throughout this short remainder of your lives. And above all, pass on this message of mine to those who come after you, so that future generations shall carry on the struggle until it is victorious. And remember, comrades, your resolution must never falter. No argument must lead you astray. Guys, I hate that line. Never let somebody tell you, don't let any arguments lead you astray. Don't use your reason. Don't use any rationality now. Just, remember, you've given me the present and I'm going to give you the future at some point. I mean, look, he says sooner or later, right? It might be a week, it might be 100 years, right? But he's like, but just give me the present, give me your dedication for life. Don't let any argument lead you astray, God forbid. He continues, never listen when they tell you that man and the animals have a common interest, that the prosperity of the one is the prosperity of the others. It's all lies. Man serves the interest of no creature except himself. And among us animals, let there be perfect unity, perfect comradeship in this struggle. All men are enemies, all animals are comrades. So, guys, before I end this live, I do want to get to this very important point because we're not going to be able to finish the chapter at this point, but that's all right. We'll pick it up. Well, you know what? You know what? Let me do this. Let me do this. We have 3 more pages until the end of the chapter. Should we just finish the chapter and do chapter 2 next time, or should we end it after this next couple of paragraphs, which is crucial for this point? What do we think? Should we just finish the chapter? Okay, I've got 1, finish the chapter. I've got 2, finish chapter 1. I've got 3, finish chapter 1. Finish chapter, 3 more pages, read it all. Amen. All right, let's do it. We're going to read the chapter. We're going to finish the chapter. It's not that long to go. So, this is very crucial. At this point, all ears need to perk up because this point is crucial. At this moment, there was a tremendous uproar. While Major was speaking, 4 large rats had crept out of their holes and were sitting on their hindquarters, listening to him. The dogs had suddenly caught sight of them, and it was only by a swift dash for their holes that the rats saved their lives. Major raised his trotter for silence. Comrades, he said, here is a point that must be settled. The wild creatures, such as rats and rabbits, are they our friends or our enemies? Let us put it to a vote. I propose this question to the meeting. Are rats comrades? The vote was taken at once, and it was agreed by an overwhelming majority that the rats were comrades. There were only 4 dissentients, the 3 dogs and the cat, who was afterward discovered to have voted on both sides. So the cat I'm forgetting about for now. The cat voted on both sides. Remember, Orwell told us about this cat in the beginning. She's not even listening to the speech. She's super self-interested. What I wanted you to catch about this incident with the 4 rats, the rats came in to listen to Major, and the dogs behaved instinctually, right? A farm dog is immediately going to see a rat and attack and chase. But old Major says, hey, this way of being is now over, right? You can no longer follow your instincts. You're not allowed, right? Uh, there's so many ways that these animals are being humanized, right? Old Major said, hey, I don't want us to be like the humans, but they just voted. Bro, they just voted. What's more humanizing? He's like, animals voting? That's very human like. And they vote to remove the instincts of the dogs. The dogs kind of chase rats by instinct. It's like you're removing what kind of makes them deeply who they are. And what's fascinating, they don't even notice. So Major continues, I have little more to say. I merely repeat, remember always your duty of enmity towards man and all his ways. Whatever goes upon 2 legs is an enemy. Whatever goes upon 4 legs or has wings is a friend. And remember also that in fighting against man, We must not come to resemble him. Even when you have conquered him, do not adopt his vices. No animal must ever live in a house, or sleep in a bed, or wear clothes, or drink alcohol, or smoke tobacco, or touch money, or even engage in trade. Guys, I don't know if you guys realize this, but human beings were domesticated by wheat crops. I think that's the reason that the majority of us have houses is because when the agricultural revolution occurred, man had to just stay around and watch his crops, make sure that robbers didn't come in and take it, or make sure that animals didn't. So, because crops are very temperamental, you have to really babysit them. We would just build up houses, and we were domesticated by crops. Right? That's to be domesticated, like domicile, same root to be housed. Human beings were put in the house by crops. Fascinating. We were domesticated not even by animals, but by crops. Um, all the habits of man are evil, and above all, no animal must ever tyrannize over his own kind. Guys, this is the question that I wanted to ask you, and I was waiting for you to answer this question, and you didn't answer me because because I had frozen. My whole thing was frozen. But now that we're back to this area, I want to ask you a question. The question is, do you believe that the dictators and the authoritarians that we're all familiar with, whether it's Hitler, Pol Pot, Stalin, Mao, pick your poison, do you think those guys knew that they were doing wrong? Or do you think that they really truly thought that despite the horror, that what they were doing was ultimately good? And you don't have to justify your answer. I mean, I know this, but it's something that I kind of wanted to put to you guys as a group because I don't even know where I land on some of this stuff. Somebody says, Joe says, yeah, they knew. Stacy says they knew. Uh, okay says, I think they rationalized it in their minds. Yeah, and Miss Wild said both. Maybe it was a little bit of both. It's very, very hard for me to imagine that it was just, this big mistake. There's, oh, I had no idea. I know that cognitive limitation can do a lot of things, when you're put under extreme amounts of pressure. Uh, but yeah, it's almost like thinking that they didn't know, almost like gives them a pass in some kind of way. So we don't want to do that. But that's kind of what I'm at least wondering about Old Major in this instance. Is like, does he know, or does he really believe that this utopia is out there? Because sometimes, and I think one of the things that separates a cult leader from an authoritarian is that a lot of times, guys, the cult leaders drink their own Kool-Aid. They're like, yeah, I am the alien from outer space that's here to save. I am the return of Christ, right? That's what a cult leader is going to kind of lead with sometimes. Not all the times. Sometimes cult leaders know too. So we're almost done. And now, comrades, I will tell you about my dream of last night. Finally, we get to the dream. I cannot describe that dream to you. It was a dream of the earth as it will be when man has vanished. But it reminded me of something that I had long forgotten. Many years ago, when I was a little pig, my mother and the other sows used to sing an old song of which they knew only the tune and the first three words. I had known that tune in my infancy, but it had long since passed out of my mind. Last night, however, it came back to me in a dream. And what is more, the words of the song also came back. Words, I am certain, which were sung by the animals of long ago and have been lost to memory for generations. I will sing you that song now, comrades. I am old and my voice is hoarse, but when I have taught you the tune, you can sing it better for yourselves. It is called Beasts of England. Old Major cleared his throat and began to sing. As he had said, his voice was hoarse, but he sang well enough, and it was a stirring tune, something between Clementine and La Cucaracha. The words ran, Beast of England, beast of Ireland, beast of every land and clime, hearken to my joyful tidings of the golden future time. Soon or late the day is coming, tyrant man shall be o'erthrown, and the fruitful fields of England shall be trod by beasts alone. Rings shall vanish from our noses, and the harness from our back. Bit and spur shall rust forever, cruel whips no more shall crack. Riches more than mind can picture, wheat and barley, oats and hay, clover, beans, and magnal wurzels shall be ours upon that day. Bright will shine the fields of England, purer shall its waters be. Sweeter yet shall blow its breezes on the day that sets us free. For that day we all must labor, though we die before it break. Cows and horses, geese and turkeys, all must toil for freedom's sake. Beast of England, beasts of Ireland, beast of every land and clime, hearken well and spread my tidings of the golden future time. Guys, this uh, this channel started with music, and it's not a reaction channel. It's deeper than that. We search for insights and deeper meaning within music. But music is something which connects us. The language that music speaks is worldview transcendent. It's universal. And this is the reason that having a piece of music or a piece of art or a flag is important for a revolution, is because it transcends opinions, right? Like rats have a different focus pattern than dogs and horses. They all have a different landscape of salience. Something that looks important to a rat or that catches a rat's attention, a horse might ignore. And something that catches a horse's attention, a pig might ignore. So, something to universalize them and to bind them, something to rise over all the opinions. Guys, symbol is so important, right? I think somebody said, I forget whose quote it was, but that music is like an irrefutable argument. Nobody can refute the argument of music. Um, and and that's essentially what myth is, right? Well, there's too many facts to correspond with, right? And I say this in some of the reactions that you guys watch. It's like there's way too, even on this screen right now, how many facts are there in my office? There's too many. So in order to organize the facts so that you know which ones to ignore, you need a myth. That's what this song is. A very, very powerful tool, right? Um, Last page. Guys, thanks for hanging out with me. This is only like two more paragraphs left. We're done. The singing of this song threw the animals into the wildest excitement. Almost before Major had reached the end, they had begun singing it for themselves. Even the stupidest of them had already picked up the tune, and a few of the words, and as for the clever ones, such as the pigs and dogs, they had the entire song by heart within a few minutes. You see how there's something that connects them? Rats don't eat the same thing as horses. Rats don't care about the same things as horses. Pigs and sheep don't care about the same thing as hens and ducks. But when it comes to this song, now there's something that cuts through all the differences. It's very important structure for revolution, right? um, and then, after a few preliminary tries, the whole farm burst out into Beast of England in tremendous unison. The cows loved the cows lowed it. The dogs whined it. The sheeps bleated it. The horses whinnied it. The ducks quacked it. They were so delighted with the song that they sang it right through 5 times in succession, and might have continued singing it all night if they had not been interrupted. Unfortunately, the uproar awoke Mr. Jones, who sprang out of bed, making sure that there was a fox in the yard. He seized the gun which always stood in a corner of his bedroom and let fly a charge of number 6 shot into the darkness. The pellets buried themselves in the wall of the barn, and the meeting broke up hurriedly. Everyone fled to his own sleeping place. The birds jumped onto their perches, the animals settled down in the straw, and the whole farm was asleep in a moment. Guys, this has been a heck of a lot of fun. Um, What a special moment. Absolutely, right? To have a group like this is like really a dream. I had no idea that this many nerds even existed. I just thought I was alone. Uh, guys, hang on, let me see. Um, all right, now I think I'm going to need some assistance from anyone who might be able to. Okay, nope, I got it. I got it. Completely got it. All right, so Joe Cami, thank you so much for the super chat. And Joe is somebody who has been on so many videos, just going along for whatever ride. I really appreciate it because I'll throw some random stuff up and just like, yo, I just want to see because I'm into a lot of strange things, music wise and philosophy wise, and so. As I learn YouTube, Joe has kind of been there for a ride. I super appreciate it. Stacy, another one, all the way since Black Pegasus's channel. Love you. Thank you so much. Stacy says, love this. Oliver Armstrong says, loving your content and how it changes my perspective on everything. Thank you and keep up the great work. Shout out to you. And when you say it changes your perspective, that's such a huge thing for me because I talk a lot about perspectival knowing. It's a form of knowledge, right? A lot of us think that propositional knowledge is the only form of knowledge. Well, propositional knowledge gives you facts, but then you have procedural knowledge that's like that teaches you how to do things. It's like a skill. And then there's perspectival knowledge, like you can jump into the perspective of Old Major. You could jump in the to the perspective of one of the horses, or what is this person thinking or that person thinking, and it helps you not to cling so much. So thank you for letting me know that perspectives have been changed. That's definitely one of my goals. Maureen O'Hara says Orwell points out that there are aspects of us that are not equal. The struggle is treating everyone as an equal, and I think there's a mistyping there. Hopefully, I'm getting that right. But yeah, there are aspects of us that are not equal. Um, there are, men and women have different strengths. When I was learning our uh, articulatory phonetics, we learn that the male vocal tract is longer than the female vocal tract. So though we can make our pitch higher, we can't match the frequency or the amplitude, and that has consequences. That means like when a man speaks, sometimes a female's threat response system will go up. It's like, okay, that's something that might be more dangerous, higher testosterone. It's really really crazy what we're doing on a subconscious level. Pauline Thomas says, money towards the cost of the next book for our book club reading. I need that stuff now because this support has been so overwhelming. I had no idea that there'd be this amount of people in the live. So right now, just start messaging on any of the comments on any of the videos that I drop. What book you want to be next? Um, because Animal Farm is about to be so sick. I'm gonna love going through this thing. Um, yeah, so there's Maureen again. I meant to say the struggle is in treating everyone equally, for sure. Another super chat. Taurus said, my introduction to this book. So happy to be here. I'm really, really happy to have you. We need everybody's perspective, everyone's insights and input. Um, Dia says, here for having the greatest live chat. Would like the story now, though. Joanne says, another good book by Orwell and truly representative of the current times we live in with social stratification, mass surveillance, and repressive regimes is 1984. Maybe one for a later date. Yeah, absolutely so. And then we have What a Special Moment. Thank you, Mr. Biscuit. No, I really, really appreciate you guys. And heading back to the live chat. Um, yeah, yeah. 1984 is a great recommendation, guys. Let me ask you guys this: since I have all of you here right now, what is a good schedule? First of all, just give me a yes or no on this. Was this a good time to go live? Because I know I was trying to meet like a couple of different time zones. I did a limited amount of research. Is 1 p.m. good? Okay, fantastic. I'm getting lots of yeses. Fantastic. Okay, so with this, I mean, guys, like, I mean, I'm somebody who loves this stuff. I want to go in. Do you guys want to do this once a week? You guys want to do this twice a week? How much is too much? Because the thing is, I also want to incorporate an ecology of practices. And an ecology of practices just means with every chapter, and maybe we'll think about one for chapter one next time, but an ecology of practices is homework. And not necessarily homework like that you have to write, but something that you can practice to make yourself better as a result of the chapter. To not have just read it and gotten the relevant information, but to say, here's what Orwell wants me to practice in order to avoid being victimized by what he's trying to present in the narrative. Does that make sense? But how many times, like twice a week? Would you guys want twice a week? Twice a week, yeah. So we're all 100% on the same page. I love this. So some people are saying once a week. Some people are saying once a week. Some people are saying twice a week. Let me see. One thing I am going to do because what would actually make me goaded at this point is to throw a poll. So, guys, in my next videos, and I don't know, I mean, I've got some things in the tuck that are releasing later today and tomorrow. I'm going to pin to the top of what I release just a poll about once or twice a week, and then if you think it's once, just say that and we'll go whatever with whatever the poll says. I don't want to overwhelm anybody because there is a lot of information. Yeah, 100%. I'll poll it up. So we've got a good time. We've got once or twice a week. Now, lastly, just to see where you guys are at, what is your book recommendation? What would you love to see after this one that we can really, really sink our claws into? 1984. 84 is coming up a lot. Slaughterhouse Five. Slaughterhouse. Slaughterhouse is a book. Whoa, Slaughterhouse Five is a book. Yo, I didn't know Slaughterhouse was a book. Slaughterhouse Five. I'm gonna have to look that up. I've never even heard of that. Interesting. Well, guys, it is 2:24. I'm gonna head up. I'm going to let my wife know how all this went. Guys, I had no idea. I was like, What am I? Am I gonna have to go over here and do that?" I also kind of want to do some, moderators next time because, I mean, I hate that, my internet froze up in the middle of everything, and I'm glad we caught that, before. So I was like, "Yo, why there's a bunch of people leaving. I'm gonna like want to check the chat and see exactly what's going on." Uh, Calamity said, "Is 50 Shades out of the question?" Absolutely not. 50 Shades is not out of the question. Is that one of the big highest selling books among women besides the Bible? What's funny is like it's the Bible and then it's 50 Shades. Oh, that's phenomenal. I love it. To Kill a Mockingbird. Oh yeah, To Kill a Mockingbird would be a great idea. Hey guys, have a very, very great day. I love this community. It's exactly what I was trying to build. Just a community that can come together and say, hey, let's deep dive into the important questions of meaning and relevance and search for insights where in some of them where we didn't imagine, but in some place like Animal Farm, it's like clear that there are insights in there. So we're going to pull out dozens and dozens of them chapter by chapter and hopefully be different after reading than we were before. Guys, I appreciate it so much. Salute. Take care.